Good morning, friends. Hearty welcome. We have Mr. Vivek Bhatia, Managing Director and CEO and member of the Board of thyssenkrupp Industries India Private Limited with us today. Before joining thyssenkrupp, Vivek was with the Boston Consulting Group based in India as member of the leadership team for sustainability, industrial goods, corporate development, and operational practices. In 2013, he was awarded a BCG Olympics gold medal for the most insightful and impactful client work in the region. Vivek holds an MBA from IIM Kolkata, MTech gold medalist from IIT Delhi, and BE with honors from University of Delhi. Vivek, hearty welcome to you at the next series of the VDMA CEO Thought Leadership Series. Pleasure to have you with us today, Vivek, to share your thoughts with our viewers and the CEOs of the German companies.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be on the call today.
Thank you, Vivek. Yeah. So, Vivek, we know the COVID has had a tremendous impact. We've seen unprecedented times in the last 4 months. In fact, it has impacted 213 countries and almost 17 million people have been infected with COVID. Many people call it also the black swan of 2020, as we are staring at an global economic recession. And in India also, there are forecasts that the GDP will contract by somewhere around 5% to 7% or even more. Vivek, what has been the impact of COVID on thyssenkrupp Industries in India as well as globally? If you could kindly give us a short brief on that, Vivek.
Yeah, definitely. Rajesh, everything you said about COVID is really true. It is indeed, I would say, a black swan event. Nobody sitting in January or February would have predicted the kind of impact that we are seeing. For us, I think it was a very similar situation to many other companies in the industry. We've seen a series of lockdowns, and as a result of those lockdowns, we have seen an impact across all aspects of the business, be it manufacturing, be it our construction sites or O&M businesses. And this is indeed true worldwide. And definitely, I think at a time like this, remote technologies, enabling people to work from home have really been a boon. But also, many of us were really scrambling to really adapt to this new reality and really gear up our IT systems, make sure technology was in place to enable us to work, in this new paradigm. At the same time, in the Indian context, I have to say labor has been a big issue for us, as it has been for other players in the industry. The reverse migration that we saw in the initial months has not really, unwound itself. So we are still seeing that many locations remain short of adequate number of workers on construction sites. And that is really the state of business today. I think we have to take it one day, 1 week at a time, and really work our way around all the limitations and challenges that there are.
And how was thyssenkrupp Industries impacted at the global level, Vivek? Was that a strong impact?
So definitely, I think the fact that international travel was no longer possible makes it difficult to really go out there and secure additional business, and also for ongoing projects to support customers. But here again, I think through technology, we have been able to really find workarounds for both of these issues. So we have continued to send some shipments out. We have worked with clients to help them commission and even service some of their facilities remotely. And we have also engaged on new prospects. So we've also booked a few orders remotely without having to travel. So I think it's really a learning and an insight for all of us that technology is really an enabler and to what extent it can go.
Right, right. And also, I think, Vivek, before COVID hit us, nobody thought that work from home would be so effective, or there was a possibility that people could, in such large numbers, work from home. And now it is turning out to be more or less a normal now. And many of the IT companies, in fact, have already announced that they'll have the work from home till end of the year, or some are also talking till till March. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I agree. No,
Uh,
I think in all of this, Rajesh, we've had one guiding principle that is people first. So we've really taken the approach of saying what's in the best interest of our staff, and how do we ensure that they remain safe and secure, and we have taken those measures.
right, right. Vivek, the government had announced the 20 lakh crore stimulus package. Now, many of these measures unveiled were in form more of loans, loan guarantees, which do not entail an immediate demand creation, because in the present scenario, I think one of the concerns what we have seen of the companies is the lack of demand. So, in what way do you feel this stimulus package from the government would really help the economy, help the MSME sectors? And maybe I'll just add one more question to that, Vivek. Do you think there would be, is there an expectation that another stimulus package from the government is possible, maybe a couple of months down the line?
So definitely the government has to react and address multiple factors beyond the economy and industry as well. I think what has been done is really deserves a lot of appreciation. How we have built capacity for treatment, how we have built capacity for PPEs, and overall, I think how the government has moved to really support the most affected sectors and segments is really commendable. Uh, Coming back to the infrastructure and investment and industry support perspective, I think the government already had announced a significant investment plan for the infrastructure sector. And definitely in the present circumstances, present environment, I think private capital will always be concerned about investing and will also see challenges from the banking sector in terms of getting funding to support them. So it's really important that the significant announcements made by the government around investment in infrastructure really translate onto the ground. And if that happens, I think it will really provide a lot of confidence to industry and to the private sector also to step forward and really work around that. And it's really heartening to note that despite all the challenges, the government so far has continued to invest. I think we are seeing a lot of investments in roads. We are seeing it in the railway sector. We are seeing it in the mining sector. Many of the PSUs have continued to announce projects despite the current situation. And that has spilled over. I think the cement sector has seen a good rebound as well. We are also active in the sugar industry. There also, I think the sentiment is quite okay. So if we continue along this path, I think overall we should see a continued investment in the capex cycle, which should be good for all manufacturers. Apart from that, I think state governments have also played a role. And definitely in Maharashtra, the state government came out with an incentive package. And also other state governments are doing so. So with that combination and also the day-to-day support that we have in enabling operations despite all the challenges of COVID, I think together industry combined with local, state level and central level government, I think we are taking some of the right actions. With regards to the specific focus on some of the vulnerable sections through loans and through other measures, I think at the end of the day, it's all part of our supply chain. So if the SMEs and MSMEs remain strong and are able to survive, I think that's good news for all of us, including the larger players. And on the other side, I think supporting the lower ends of the society and also the rural sector is really welcome, because at the end of the day, India is significantly driven by agriculture, and with a good monsoon season and good support to the farmers, I think that should really help the economy stay strong and kickstart after the slowdown. So overall, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we are doing some of the right steps. We're taking some of the right steps and doing the right actions. We just have to make sure that there's a full follow through on what all has been committed, and then I think we should be in a reasonably good spot.
Right. And Vivek, do you think a second stimulus package is possible, or another stimulus package couple of months down the line? Do you think there's a possibility of something like that coming from the government side?
Yes, I think definitely there's an expectation. What I find is that the government has been quite measured, and they have not really, outdone themselves even in the first attempt. So I do think they still have some firepower to push the right projects. And what I do see is, and what I do expect is that they will really react and respond on a topic wise basis. So they will really look at, where do they get the maximum bang for the buck, so to speak, and they will not shy away from doing so. That is at least our expectation in the industry. And definitely, I think infrastructure will be one of the key candidates, because it has a multiplier effect. Every rupee you put into infrastructure, firstly, it creates a positive environment for the economy. It supports economic growth, but also it generates employment to build that infrastructure. It generates employment in manufacturing to create the equipment and machinery to be used for that infrastructure. So I think it really has a cascading effect on the economy. So from that point of view, I think that would be one space where we'll continue to see, core sector growth.
Right, right. And I think also, Vivek, the auto sector is also hopeful that maybe a scrappage policy may be announced, because the automobile sector also has been badly impacted by COVID. And in fact, they are staring at a slowdown in the range of somewhere around almost 25 to 40%, depending on which segment. So maybe I think the scrappage policy, they are looking forward that that can stimulate some sort of a growth for the automotive sector. And let's, as you say, let's wait and watch. Maybe the government till now has been proactive. So I think we can only wait and watch and hope that something more comes up.
And Rajesh, with the Atmanirbhar emphasis,
Right.
I think there's really a strong policy push as well. So it's not always about hard numbers, but these soft factors which promote local investment, which promote manufacturing in India through policy support also go a long way. And we are seeing that now increasingly across sectors. The government is really looking at what are we importing, why are we importing, and what can be done to really stimulate Indian industry to step in and cover those sectors. But here, I think the key thing is also productivity and technology. And it's okay to say that we will manufacture in India, but we must also ensure that we have the right incentives and policy support, that we get the latest technologies also in India. And when you have the latest technology, I think then India, with its really capable workforce, would be able to create, I'm sure, very competitive products, not just for the domestic market, but also for exports.
Right. In fact, I'll let me come to the next question related to that, Vivek, is that we have, as you correctly mentioned, about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and then vocal for local. Now, the government is also looking at attracting foreign direct investment through these schemes or through these slogans or programs. So, Vivek, do you feel that in short term we would see some FDIs coming in, or do you think it's more a long term perspective?
See, I think policy has to be definitely built keeping the mid to long term in mind. And the measures that have been taken over the previous years, such as, improving our position in the ease of doing business. I think the tax reforms that we have done, the investments that have been done in the banking side to strengthen, banks, all of these are, I think, different pieces of the puzzle. And now I think the government is also coming up with a strong policy push to the under the Atmanirbhar, framework. So definitely, I think the combination of all of these will give rise to a lot of green shoots. Worldwide, I think India definitely remains one of the most attractive destinations for FDI for two reasons. I think firstly, there is a huge market within India itself, which has become easier to access with GST effectively creating one national market. And on the other side, I think due to availability of skilled labor and also with technology that comes along with FDI, we are able to create an environment which is highly competitive. So definitely, I think the case for investing in India is very strong. And I think as long as the government continues on the path of reforms and really focusing on an enabling environment, I think India will continue to see a good flow of FDI.
Thank you. Thank you for this insightful thoughts, Vivek. Vivek, last week, in fact, you spoke earlier of cautious optimism. And last week, there were some conflicting reports or remarks, I would say. On one hand, we had the finance ministry officials mentioning that maybe the slowdown or the contraction in GDP may not be as severe as anticipated, because the GST collections, in fact, when we had the figures last week, it was supposed to be quite good. It's almost come up to 80 to 82% of the pre-COVID level. On the other hand, I read the report from Oxford Economic, which was forecasting that India is expected to lose momentum from late third quarter, that is more or less October to December, after the initial push of reopening, Vivek, would fade away. Now, what is your take, Vivek? Do you see that the last quarter will get a slowdown, or do you feel that we can still have a little rebound and the contraction as anticipated? In fact, initially, most of the rating agencies had anticipated 5% contraction. And then as the lockdowns in some states got extended, I think now the predictions are somewhere to 8 to 9% contraction. So what is your view on this, Vivek?
See, I think it will be an iterative process because in the early stages of the pandemic, there were even predictions that India will see some mild growth.
Right.
And then I think as it progressed, as you said, minus 5%. Now there are different numbers. I think if we look at some of the high intensity data or high frequency data for the Indian economy, definitely right now, the market seems to be alive, and definitely the approach of the government to say that we have to take care of the people, but at the same time, we also have to ensure that the economic engine is not stopping. I think that combination has really, it's been a fine balancing act, and I think overall they've done quite well. And now it's really a question of how soon, we see a tapering off of the pandemic and do not see subsequent waves, because we have seen wave 1, wave 2, people are talking about wave 3. Even in China, I think there are cases popping up. So So for us, I think what is good is that the monsoon season is usually a slow season, for a variety of reasons. So we are seeing overall a good monsoon season, and it also, which means it will be good for agriculture. And on the other side, we have these couple of months of the monsoon to really bring the pandemic under control, bring the virus under control in India. And if we are able to do that, then I think the fourth quarter might actually not be that bad. We might even see some positive green shoots because the rural sector will emerge strongly from a positive monsoon season, and the industry, would see an overhang, and would continue to push forward because of the lull. There will be a, strong, pullback in the industry once we fully emerge. So the combination of the two could actually, make it not so bad a picture. So hence my view that I'm cautiously optimistic. But we will have to wait and see how this really evolves. Not to say I think the vaccine has a major impact on all of this. So if we are able to see something sooner rather than later, then definitely that will give a big boost to sentiment. And lastly, I think if we look at the Sensex as any kind of a signal, then I think there's been a good rebound in the Sensex. It is, the losses are pretty much covered up. We are at pre-COVID. I wouldn't say at the pre-COVID peaks, but definitely, at healthy levels in the markets. So definitely the sentiment, the expectation is there for a good next few quarters. So let's see how this evolves.
All right. So you are optimistic, Vivek, that the contraction may not be as sharp as presently predicted.
Correct. So I remain cautiously optimistic as
Right. Right.
There are too many uncertainties, to really have a clear line of sight. But definitely, if I look at some of the factors that I mentioned, the
Yes.
situation doesn't seem to be too bad.
Too bad, yes. And I think generally, as you also mentioned, Vivek, we've seen the tractor sales have been quite good in the month of June, and people are expecting that it would come maybe by the end of the year, it may be to the same level as the year before. And I think rural economy is perhaps a little bit of a saving grace, if one may say so, because even two-wheeler sales in the rural economy has in the rural areas has picked up. So I think largely perhaps the rural economy will help us to some extent to cushion the fall of GDP.
Correct. And we have to realize, I think two-thirds of India is still rural. A
Yes.
significant part of our GDP is also agriculture driven. So it always is, a good monsoon always has a positive impact. So I think so far we've been lucky with that. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Yeah. My last question, Vivek, is we are all sailing in the stormy waters of COVID with uncertainty, unpredictability, VUCA world, the uncertainty factor being very high. What would be your two or three tips, Vivek, to the industry leaders, to the CEO of German companies? How can they navigate and sail their boat in this stormy water, Vivek?
Yeah. So firstly, I think it's really unprecedented crisis, and leadership is really important. And as business leaders, definitely the most important, aspect is to be empathetic as a leader, to really have a people first approach. And we have to realize that it is people who run the business, not the machines, not the equipment, not the factories, not the construction site. It is people who
Right.
make business happen. So definitely, I think as a leader, being empathetic and having a people first approach is really priority number one. Because if we are able to keep them safe, keep them secure, keep motivation up, keep the enthusiasm high, definitely, I think that would pay rich dividends, not just in the short term, but definitely mid-term, long-term as well. So I think that is extremely important for leaders. Second, I think with the uncertainty and to ensure stability in the business, cash is king. And people have to really look into their operations and see that they're managing their cash and fund flow efficiently, that they're not, getting overly stretched, which might lead to, further negative consequences. So definitely a focus on cash. That would be the second thing. And then third is staying close to customers. All the traditional means of engagement have been disrupted. Pre-COVID, I was traveling extensively, meeting customers every week, engaging with them in various parts of India and even outside, and really, trying to understand what their priorities are. But in today's environment, with the traditional meetings disrupted, I think it's extremely important for leaders and CEOs and CXOs to find other ways of remaining connected with their customers, to really understand what are their struggles and challenges, and through that insight, try to create solutions, try to be of support, try to play a part in resolving the challenges that you're facing. So, being close to customers. So that would be, those would be the three recommendations that I would have for business leaders. People first, be an empathetic leader, focus on cash, and stay really, really close to your customers in different ways.
Right, right. I think thank you very much, Vivek, for these insightful tips, and I'm sure this would benefit the CEOs of the German companies and also the industry leaders. Vivek, thank you for joining us for this edition of VDMA CEOs Thought Leadership Series. On behalf of the German Engineering Federation, wishing you and the team all the best. Let's hope that we have a good rebound, and as you correctly mentioned, let's be cautiously optimistic and let's hope the contraction in the GDP is not so sharp. So all the best from our side, Vivek.
Thank you, Rajesh, and I must compliment you for this series. I think it's really a great initiative that you're taking up to really remain engaged through VDMA with all the business leaders. Thank you so much for having me in the chat today.
Thank you, Vivek. Have a good day then. Have a good week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.